Good evening and welcome to the White Wave Views broadcast, the WWVB, coming to you live from Auckland, New Zealand by Addie Morrison, that's me. Well, welcome to the White Wave News tonight, and what we're going to be covering tonight is a very touchy subject, so get your blankie, your wine, your coffee or your cigarette, and just relax and listen to me for about 20 minutes about what's going on in our country with the suicide rates, with the concealment of statistics, with the lack of reporting, and the missing funding for Pakeha. So if you're not familiar with what we cover on the White Wave Views broadcast, we cover the worldwide war on whites, the attacks on Christians, the assault on our heritage happening all across Europe. I talk about how it's being played out here in New Zealand and who are the bad actors that are jumping on this waka of hate. I talk about the persecution of our people and the impact that's having, that we are enduring, shaming and blaming and defaming on a daily basis as an ethnic people. And the blasphemy of our Christianity, which we hold sacred and close, especially as that's what began this nation, that we are really suffering, being victims of what the Maori people are blaming us for doing to them is actually happening to us. It's sort of like a flip-flop thing, where what they're complaining about is not happening to them at all, and it's actually literally happening to us. So what I'm going to show you tonight with the suicide rates is really the tip of the iceberg, and it's just one example of the state-funded discrimination that we are enduring here. So, we feel like we've been betrayed by the state, and also the social contract between us and Māori has been breached, and that's why we're at loggerheads. And there's the separatism, and we've got apartheid now. I mean, who would have thought? So, this is a heavy load for Pakeha. It causes depression. It causes isolation. If you're neglected and underfunded, you have low self-esteem, you've got a lack of opportunity, missing funding allocations. We're going to talk about that. And how the bulk of the money is going to non-Pakeha people, and we're left with just the general health services for mental health well-being and suicide prevention. And within just the general list, we're at the bottom of that as well. So not only is there bespoke funding for non-Pakeha ethnicities, especially Maori and Pacific Islander, but they're also raping and pillaging the general fund, the mental health wellbeing fund as well. And we're on the bottom of the list for that. So this is all having an impact on our people and has been going on quite a long time. And this is why people are saying, look, we've had enough of being bystanders. We've had enough of our constitution being broken, the government partnering with Māori and just completely neglecting us. And this is literally costing lives now. So this is a very serious issue I'm covering here tonight. And we're going to look at a special case of a guy called Matt. And he's just a concerned citizen from the South Island. And he contacted the Pakeha movement, which this White Wave Views broadcast is an arm or a branch of. That I'm starting out as a journalist with, but somebody will replace me, and then there'll be other people as well doing the roles of bringing the news for Pakeha people and what's happening with us and what we're doing about it. So there's hundreds of millions of dollars. This is an enormous amount of money being poured into the mental health wellbeing and suicide prevention particularly. Okay, so with all these allocations and the way they categorise us and the way they conceal the statistics and they don't do any reporting and just nobody says anything about it, we're never even mentioned. We don't even have a category under the Pakeha name, and it's a very important name because we're the other race of the treaty, and there's descendants of the early pioneers that are spearheading the Pakeha movement. And they are working behind the scenes very, very hard. and putting documents together, and we are going to make a class action claim. There's actually a legal entity being created, a trust being created. The first time ever in history the Pakeha have actually are creating a legal entity. Because one of the reasons why we're not heard and we don't have a voice and we don't have funding and we get neglected is because all the attention is on the Māori and the Pacific Islanders that have to have these special cult group sessions and services because of the narrative that came out of the Waitangi Tribunal that we're basically born racist, privileged thieves. Okay, so it's almost like it's by design. It's almost like we don't deserve help. Nobody cares that the Pakeha are leaving the planet at astronomical rate that you just wouldn't think would happen. We're the second highest suicide rate and we don't get any funding for that at all. And like I said, one of the reasons is because they already think we're privileged. Okay, we're the dirty colonisers, and there's just like a social shaming that's basically been normalised. And the Māori, when they get their hundreds of millions, a lot of them are funding providers, and they get a lot of sick amount of money, and they just channel that out to non-Pakeha people. They don't even think about us. They must know that we don't get anything right. And when they're a provider, you know, they could put in a Pakeha section there, but no, they won't give us a cent. Nothing. So we're pariahs. We're being treated like dirt as the architects, designers and builders of this nation. And it is heart-wrenching for our people, and we're really highlighting this tonight, okay, that we need to look after our own people, okay, and we need to gather our own legal entity, and we need to actually go to the steps of Parliament to receive what the Māori did under Article 3 of the treaty, which is the same rights. And the government has a duty to treat us equally under the treaty if it's going to be a treaty-centred future. Okay, we're going to have our partnership in that. Okay, we're no longer going to be bystanders. So we have the second highest suicide rate. So the question is, why do they neglect us, and why are we invisible in the system? Why is it that Māori say that they're invisible and marginalised and suppressed, when in actual fact the statistics and the reality show that actually we're the ones that are suffering from that? It's state-funded discrimination and racism, that's what it is, and that's a breach. We've got lots of breaches that we're going to be making with the legal entity that we're creating. So all of these things are going to be eventually dealt with. Tonight I'm going to show Matt's petition, and this is just an example, okay, of the tip of the iceberg that's going on for Pakeha. I mean, literally there is no word in the dictionary that can describe what is going on with us, against us. So I've created a new word, and it's called poverty. And it's the state that Pakeha have been left in because our sovereignty has been stolen. Okay, the government is really no longer serving us at all. So the categorisation is really bad too, because it conceals. When we get categorised into the ethnic, we get put into the other category. Now, in the other category is the very minority ethnic groups, very minority. Okay, the other groupings are Maori, Pacific Islander, Asian and Indian. And then we put in the others. They won't even put New Zealand European or Pakeha or New Zealander. They just can't bring themselves to even type our name. You know, we want our Pakeha back on the census. It used to be on the census. We're not getting our statistics reported here. And there is an opposite narrative being bandied around that's not happening, and we're missing out, and it's costing Pakeha lives. This is what I'm saying, okay? So there's a lot of money going into mental health and suicide prevention, and Maori are stewarding most of that money, if not all of it, okay? And they're the funding providing channels, and all of their efforts go into non-Pakeha, okay, which is 30%. Okay, 30% of people. They're giving it to themselves, the Pacificas, and they're giving it to the other brown people, and they're giving nothing to us. I mean, we're supposed to get 70%, and we're getting nothing. We're getting nothing. I mean, there's something wrong here. Why don't they include Pakeha in their allocations, these funding providers that steward all the money into these Maori organisations? They don't even, surely they know the stats, right? But they don't even bother making even a little slice of it for us. Let's have something for the Pakeha. No, they are deliberately orchestrating and designing all their people to stay in their cult groups. Okay, so this is, this is for Islander by Islander, and it's bespoke for Islander, and because it's culturally sensitive. But everything that they're doing is just Christian values anyway, with a language name stamped on it. We're going to look at a website in a minute, and we'll just quickly go through it, and I'll show you the types of things they're spending these hundreds of millions of dollars on. They're not preventing suicide at all, because all the money has gone to the brown people, and their suicide rates have stayed the same for 15 years. And what does that tell you? That tells you that all the money isn't changing anything. And then if you look at the minimal stats that you can find, our suicide rates haven't changed either in the last 15 years at all. Nothing much has changed. But you would think that those that have got the 700 million, there would be a drop. And that the European line that hasn't stayed, that has stayed the same, would have been way lower if we had had some funding. I mean, I just think we should be the stewards of this sort of thing, not Maori, because ever since they became the steward of the government funding for all these services, everything has turned to shit, you know what I mean? It's substandard, it's not adequate at all. And this is a really big problem. And this is totally a breach. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to have a look at this this graph. This graph here just quickly. Confirmed cases by ethnic group. See, they haven't even got the recent stats for the last 8 years. These are old stats. They just don't want you to know. They're concealing everything. Okay, so this is the basic stats from 2009 to 2018. There's not even anything updated. They should update these suicide rates every month so everybody knows what's happening. There's no analysis. This is the problem. There's no monitoring of the money. There's no analysis. There's no intelligent thought in this. And there's no bloody change. So you've got Maori at the top there, right? Then you've got Pacific peoples and Asian. And here's the line of the graphs along here. And then in this little other group here is where we are. The New Zealanders, the Europeans, the Pakeha. See, they can't even give us a proper name. We're the majority in this country, 70%, and they can't even put Pakeha there or European New Zealander there. They just can't bring themselves to do it. Because these are the only people that matter, the Maori, the Pacific peoples, the Asians. The Indians come into the Asian count, okay? So you can see here that the other, which is us, right here, this line here, we're the second highest suicide rate. But what they do when the funding comes along, because Maori, Pacific Islanders, Asian Indians, they have their separate ones, okay? And then there's an allocation for the other, which is where we are. And to be fair, there's about 10% of non-European in there. So 90% of this other is us. Okay? And we've got the second highest suicide rate. And they don't bother giving us any funding. Okay, so these three major ones here get most of the funding. And then the rest of it goes to the 10% of the other, and we get nothing. Let's have a look at Matt's petition. Now, Matt contacted the Pakeha movement and he said something really great happened in Parliament the other day. I had my petition read out, and Chris Bishop 2 days ago read out Matt's petition, and he was so surprised. Look at this tiny petition of this concerned citizen, where he had some Pakeha friends commit suicide, and he was wondering why, and he just started to look and research a little bit, and he's a little bit of a whistleblower, and he found some statistics. He did a little petition and he only got 69 signatures. He sent it through to the Parliament, and lo and behold, they picked it out of the hat the other day, and he was just so stoked. This is a tiny small step to get the Pakeha voice heard. And the accusation that the Crown is deliberately neglecting us, and they're causing us to be depressed, to have a lack of opportunity. There's state-funded racism, because woven into all of this mental health well-being and the suicide prevention that's stewarded by Maori is the decolonisation. Okay, so they're reinforcing to the brown people that you can't work with us. That's why they're huddling them all into cult groups. This is not the Kiwi culture. This is not the deal that we had. Literally billions over decades have been spent on assimilation and integration with a deal that the Maori would be doing that, and that's what they'd be spending their money on. But what they've done is they've revolted, and they've been spending it on rebelling against the Crown, breaking their social contract with Pakeha, and just ripping us off our equity, the cash, and the government has really made a big mistake. And the only way it's going to be fixed is if we go and follow the beaten track of the Maori Land March from 1975, and we take our case to the Parliament steps. And there is a Pakeha movement plan and proposal for New Zealand European Pakeha. We have a step-by-step plan. If you want to be involved, our links will be in the comment section once the video is finished. So this was open for signatures, and this is what this fellow Matt did. And the petition request is written there. The House Representative urged the government to collect suicide data about New Zealand Europeans. Pakeha has a specific group. This is very important, that we're not erased and that we don't let ourselves be dismantled and have our culture taken out of everywhere, because everything was working like a well-oiled clock when we were in control. The country was healthy, wealthy and wise, right? The reason for the petition to better inform suicide prevention initiatives. Yes, there's no official calculation. It's just so wrong. They do it deliberately, and they just focus on all the non-Pakeha. And honestly, why do they keep needing more if they've already had billions for decades and nothing's changing? This is the question. It's being mismanaged, and we're being neglected. It's just really bad. So, petition of Matt Yule, his name is, collecting suicide data. So, why the gap exists? Let's have a look at this. Take it up to 75. Why the gap exists? Government mythology uses prioritisation for ethnicity, which deliberately aggregates mixed or minority groups into broader categories. This approach means that statistics neglect separate reporting for one of the largest groups in the country, New Zealand Europeans. There's no public data set or table that breaks out European-only suicide rates distinct from those categories. Final takeaway, if you ask, what is the suicide rate for New Zealand Europeans? The honest answer is it cannot be determined from official government data, because the government data publishes, it just doesn't exist. Okay, we're invisible. We don't exist. Nobody is reporting. Nobody is interviewing anybody that's a Pakeha that is coming against this, because the narrative is you can't come against what the government is doing with Maori. Okay, and it's just never going to stop until we go and claim our rights, okay? So this is what we're all about. It's actually focusing on the solutions, exposing the evil, but focusing on the solutions and beginning to take the track in the step-by-step plan to take it to Parliament. It's going to be really exciting. Let's have a look at this one. What is a New Zealand European suicide rate? This is another example that Matt sent me. Sorry, I'm still getting used to this application. Actually, this is the first time I've done a full video of this using my new application. Okay, so there's no official suicide rate. That's a problem in itself, people. There's no official. We're the majority of the country. We're 70%. We've got the second highest suicide rate, but nothing to see there. Okay? I mean, this is not a conspiracy theory. This is reality. This is happening. Okay? It does not report suicide stats. The other group, you see, we're lumped into the other group. The closest available proxy, other. It's where they stick us. We're just the others. We're just the wider community. The dirty colonisers, the pariahs, the ones that need punishing, the ones that are privileged. They don't need help. We don't need charity, apparently. You know, all the charity gets trucked to the Marais. Honestly, these people are hogging to the absolute... It's very soul-destroying. And to be honest, 50 years of this persecution on Pakeha, no wonder people are topping themselves. I mean, you've really got to factor this into account, right? By prioritised ethnicity. Well, here's the breakdown, okay? So you got Maori at the top there, at the top of everything. Now, they've had the billions and nothing's changing. It's getting worse. So where is the, are they really a priority? I mean, honestly, I think the money should be just stewarded by Pakeha like it always was. And we'll allocate everybody fairly. Fairly, because that's our culture. We're fair and we're just. We have integrity. We're wise people. We think about preservation. We think about the community and the nation. We do. I mean, for example, Europeans have about 2 children per family. Whereas non-Europeans are having 10 or, 5 to 10. They're not thinking about the balance in the community. They don't care. They want to dominate because they have been told that we once did and we were racist. The whole reason why there's been this separatism and apartheid has come out of the false narratives and the disgusting view of Pakeha. That's come out of the Waitangi Tribunal. This is the whole premise. The whole premise of all this extra stuff is because we're racist. That's what it is. And so if we can break through that narrative, we might be getting somewhere. So you've got the Maori, then you've got the Pacific, then you've got the Asian, which includes the Indians. The other ethnic category includes those that do not identify as Maori, Pacific, Asian, or Indian. It doesn't say Indian because they're in the Asian category, okay? So this other category includes Europeans, which is the 70%. It includes Middle Eastern, Latin American, African, and other ethnic groups, and they only make up 10% of the other. Here it is. You see, I like this. The other category right here. The ethnic category other. How could the word other be an ethnic category? Why don't they just list all the ethnicities and list the rate of suicide? I mean, it's just common sense, isn't it? It's just common sense, isn't it, people? I mean, am I wrong here or what? Am I being racist? Am I, am I pointing out things that just, don't really, it's not really true? Well, it is true. I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Now, this guy, Matt, okay, he's like a little whistleblower. He's done some research. He's put the petition in. The government has tabled it. It's really good. Chris Bishop did it. And there is going to be a bit of an inquiry, okay? And we're going to make sure that is corrected somehow. And this is what we want to do. We want to inform the people of what's happening, expose this evil wherever it's found, And we want to bring our Christian values and our Pakeha culture back into the system, because there was nothing wrong with what we had. And the proof of that is the 50 years of absolute destruction of this Western culture and the Pakeha ways. We had a wonderful relationship with Maori once. I mean, we were growing up, we weren't arguing about the treaty, and Maori weren't complaining. They were quite happy. And we had a happy, healthy, wise country until a small group of rebellious people decided to work against the treaty, and they changed it. And they dishonoured the chiefs too, because everything the chiefs said that they wanted, these rebellious Maori people are doing the total opposite. And that's why the prophecy that they made has come true. That if you go back to the old tikanga ways, or if you break the bond with the Maori, or if you rebel against the sovereign crown, evil will become upon the heads of the nation. That's what they prophesied, that's what they said. I will put the link to the Kahimarama Conference records, the speeches of the native treaty chiefs. 200 of them came together. It was a one-time only conference. 200 of them came together, and that's where the principles, the obligations and the resolutions are, and that was a covenant. Now, the reason why they made the covenant 20 years after the treaty, it was because it was broken by the rebellious Māori, and a lot of them didn't understand it because it didn't really have principles or explanations. So they spent a month long every day really having a huge hui, and that was supposed to happen every year. And if it had happened every year, we wouldn't have half the problems we have now, because those resolutions and principles would have been read out annually every year. Like, they should do it on Waitangi Day, actually. They should actually read out the affirmations, the confirmations of the treaty chiefs. They should read out the statement from the governor and the queen. They should show the 3 tokens that the chiefs gave, really special sacred tokens of allegiance, tokens of the 3 articles. They confirmed them, affirmed them, and they had a month-long conference, and they said, look, this is the problems in the community after 20 years, and this is what we should do about it. And by that time, the chiefs were very well educated and spoke English, and they understood the British ways. All the rest of the chiefs were rebellious, remember? Not all of them that didn't come to the conference, but there was a really big rebel faction. Another reason why the conference didn't go the next year or the year after, because the New Zealand War broke out. Now, you see, the Pakeha were told, before we came, or before the flux came after the treaty, the Maori and Pakeha are friends now. You can come, it's safe, all right? So we come and it wasn't safe. We were persecuted by the rebellious factions. We suffered a string of massacres after the treaty. And then they had the Kahimarama Conference, and they brought more troops in, and we had the New Zealand Wars. So we were confirmed again at the Kahimarama Covenant that, yes, the Pakeha will be protected, and we weren't. We spent years thrust into a war. I mean, we've got breaches coming out of our ears, people. And we've got a lawyer and an accountant putting a value to everything, all the debt that we're owed, the breaches that the Crown against us. The continual breaches all the time, like this one with the suicides. I mean, if we had some money, that suicide rate would be cut in half. They are literally committing like a manslaughter type of thing. The state-funded racism. Purposely not giving money to the majority, and they're the second highest suicide rate, is an absolute crime. It is an absolute crime. And this is what we're all about here at the White Wave Views broadcast. It's about what white people are doing and what we need. We want our voices heard. We don't have funding. We don't have Pakeha TV. There's hundreds of millions poured into Maori media, and they share that with all the brown people too. They get all set up. We've got nothing. We've got not one trust in the Pakeha name, the Ngāti Wikitoria. We are a legitimate iwi of the treaty. If there's a partnership, we're the other partner. You know what I mean? They should have taken us through the tribunal with them, but they didn't. They made a big mistake, the Crown. And not only have they got the Pakeha on their back, they're going to have us on their back too. And at the end of the day, can you imagine if the Pakeha and the Māori came together? We had our government monarchy, and the Māori had their government monarchy, which they basically got. They're sitting in there waiting for the government to collapse. That's what they're doing. So we've got to get with it, people, and we've got a lot of things going on in the background. There's things that I can't talk about, but they will be revealed in time, and they're very exciting, and we've got some surprises for you. Okay, so keep in tune with the White Wave Views broadcast. Make sure people are sharing our email. I'll put it in the comments below. And that you like the Pakeha Council page, and that you start loving us. You start embracing the Pakeha title, because that's our golden ticket on the legal side of things. Okay, because we're written in all those documents as Pakeha, the other race of the treaty. Okay, it's very important and it matters. Okay, so the government is not serving us. They've put us aside. They've changed the constitution. They partnered with Maori, and now the Maori are governing with the Crown. They're governing over us, but they're not even serving us either. And so the Maoris are not going to serve us, okay? Not these rebellious ones. However, there may be an iwi that we can work with that will protect us and support our colonial mission march, taking our remembrance box to the Parliament. This is going to happen next year, or the end of next year. Okay, so we want forums in every city and town of people that come together and have a chat and follow a very simple step-by-step plan in synergy across the country, preparing and planning for the Colonial Mission March 2027. We're going to take the remembrance box inside an ark, and we're going to be carrying the ark. There's going to be 10 of us, and we're Ngāti Wikitoria. We've all got ancestry that goes back before the Constitution of 1852. We already had a constitution. We already had deals with chiefs. There was the Hei Whakaputanga, and we're written in there, and we're enclosed in there. Legally, we are. We are enclosed in that document. The treaty was the meat and the sandwich of the Hei Whakaputanga and the Kohimarama Covenant. We're under the covenant of God. We're under the covenant of the Kohimarama records as well. Okay, the treaty chiefs are on our side. They don't like the rebels. They condemned them long ago. Te Pāti Maori and the government, oh my gosh. Let's have a look at what says here. Let me carry on just for another few minutes. I was going to end now because people say, oh, you should only do short videos. But no, we're going to have a look at this one. Okay, this is just a short video, and it's Leah Pānapa, and she is interviewing Elliot Illakai. They say a little bit about the special Maori bespoke, you know, the tangi leaves. This is all, there is just screeds and screeds and screeds of Maori privilege and Maori favour over and above treaty settlements. I mean, outside the treaty settlements, they're being given Crown land right, left and centre, plus hundreds of millions to go with it. It's not even a treaty settlement. I mean, they just keep doing this all the time. So we can't tear them down. We can only raise a standard. So everything the Maori got, we're going for, and we're entitled to it. And we're going to have a lawyer and accountant. A value is going on everything. Okay, what the Crown owes us has reached into the hundreds of billions now. When you consider all the losses, and there's about 10 different categories of losses, and there's evidence and proof, and we want to thank all the people for the last 50 years since this bloody Waitangi tribunal curse has been upon our heads. I want to thank you for all your work that you've done. We're going to pull you in under the umbrella of the movement, and we're going to tell the news about you, and we're going to promote you, and we're going to get you on too, because I'm updating to podcasts soon. That's another thing I have to learn about that software and how to do that. So I'm having some tutoring with Vinny Eastwood, and I'd like to thank Vinny Eastwood for that too, and he's helping me learn how to deliver my live streams better. So let's go on to this little video here. And let's just watch this for 4 minutes.
It's been revealed that Māori staff working for Oranga Tamariki can apply for discretionary paid leave for cultural reasons, such as attending kapahaka festivals or land claim hearings. Marae meetings, which isn't offered to anyone else. The minister responsible for O2, Karen Shaw, has responded, saying these entitlements do not sit comfortably with her, and she has demanded a please explain from ministry officials. However, she cannot direct them to stop. And while this government promised to stop favouring one ethnicity over another, it seems we're constantly finding not much has changed in this space in their 2 years in power. A very good friend of the show, and it's always great to have him on, from Hobson's Pledge. Good afternoon, Elliot Illakai.
Yeah, good afternoon. Very happy to be here. And at the moment, I'm calling to you from the beautiful land of Blenheim.
Oh, do get around, Elliot, in the nicest sense, of course. Lovely to see you, my friend. All right, extra leave for Māori for oranga tamariki. Do you know how much of this is actually being used, Elliot, and at what cost?
So this has apparently started up around a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I've only just come across this recently because of the whistleblower. And it's possible it's the same whistleblower that Duncan Garner's been speaking to and perhaps even spoke to Karen Chua. Now, I've got no understanding as to how much this is done, but when you look at the policy itself, it is black and white. If you happen to be like myself, where we whakapapa Māori, we get extra. If I want to go to Polyfest, sweet, I get it. If I want to go to some type of event that is Māori focused, then sweet as, I've got it. Now, my understanding is, from within Oranga Tamariki itself, is that there is a very clear expectation that you request it, you get it. So the culture appears to be very much, again, biased for this. Now, if you happen to be Chinese and you've got a very important Chinese festival to attend to, or maybe a family event for for Chinese New Year, no, forget it. It's got nothing to do with you. It is only to do with Māori, and specifically only Māori.
Minister Chua said that she's not happy, but these contracts were signed prior to her becoming minister. She was quick to say that it's between OT and the unions, and this was signed, as you said, a couple of years ago. She says back in the early 2023, and she will be letting them know. She says that she wants this out of contracts, future contracts. But Elliot, the thing is, she can't direct them to do so, because it's a deal that's done between, them and the union. So, again, it's just, nice for her to say that. But, again, it may not change.
Well, her response is, it's a bit of a yes and no, because she's correct. The contract's been done, it's been agreed to, so it's signed off. And so you've got areas of contractual law. But there is that larger law, the BORA, the Bill of Rights, and this actually could be placed under that, where it is a discriminatory policy based off race. It is that. That's what it is. And so these are the people who make the laws. They can change the laws. They can put it into place. So on the one hand, they can say, right, yes, the contract says that you can have this, but by the larger law, you can't have this discrepancy. In fact, you're going to have to offer that to everyone of every culture, every ethnicity, if you're going to do this. So it's a yes and no. Yes, she's partly correct, but no, they can absolutely change things because they're in the seats of power.
Wow. So there you go. That was Elliot Ilikai. He is a representative of Hobson's Pledge, who also do very great work in the background towards exposing the state-funded discrimination and racism within not only the health industry, it's everywhere. And haven't these Maoris got a cheek to say we're privileged and they're voiceless? And, how's Te Pāti Maori saying that, we're trying to exterminate them? I mean, I just don't see that there is any of that for them. I believe that everything they're saying is just a mirror of what's happening to us. And that's how we've got to look at it. Okay? So this guy, Matt, he's put the petition in and it's been tabled. It's a bit of a miracle, actually, that it was. So if you want to support Matt, he's actually going to set up a trust, a small trust. And this is what we want people to do. We want you to set up small trusts for things. Because when we get the funding, which we will, okay, we will, you can be guaranteed we're going to get something. All right, even if we get 10% of what we're going for, we're all going to be a little bit rich, especially if you set up a trust for Pakeha. Okay, have a look and see what Pakeha need in your community. You might already have a project, you might have an initiative. Well, what I want you to do is legalise it into like a trust, or create a trust. Okay, because when we get some money, then we're going to become a funding provider for New Zealand Europeans. Okay, so if you've got a project going, an initiative, or you want to start something up, do it now. Let us know, okay, and then we can put you on the register for funding. Start it now, okay? Start doing your work now, preparing for it, because this is what life is. You've got to prepare and you've got to plan, Okay, the preparation and the planning. You've got to believe you can do it. And this is why we're here, okay, to encourage you that now is the time for solutions. Okay, you can still gripe and complain, but do the 80-20 rule. Okay, spend 80% finding who's doing things that are going to be the solution, and spend the other 20% tearing down the enemy. Okay, but don't do too much tearing down, because God says you can't really tear down the devil. You know, that's not the deal. You can't scrape the devil away. Okay, you got to get this. All you can do is raise a standard, a banner. And what we're doing is our banner is the reminder of what we had once in our country. And we're going to unify the Pakeha on memory, on the beautiful memories that we once had as growing up with different ethnicities, mainly Pakeha, Maori, but other ethnicities as well. And we all got along fine. We had no problems at all. We had the oneness. We had the oneness. Okay, and it was because of the Pakeha culture that was loved. It's not really I don't see Christianity as a religion. I see it as humanitarian and evangelical, and that's what we did when we came here. We worked the work for God, and we inherited the authority. Even the Maori said it. The substance of the land belongs to them, and the authority belongs to the Pakeha. They're the ones that are going to work it out. They're the parents, we're the kids. Okay, so the substance of the land was made that they owned it. They never owned it before that. We made them own it. And the only reason why we made them own it is so the real estate laws could work. Okay, so they got free land. They're the only people in the world that get free land. We have to pay for everything. And the Maoris, they go back and they scour the old documents of the Waitangi Tribunal, and they sit there and they say, well, you know, back in the day, you know, the governors, they ripped us off because, you know, they only gave us this much for a piece of land, and then they sold it to the Pakeha for 3 times as much. Well, you know, let's have a bit of context, mate. We paid for all the infrastructure. I mean, the fact that we paid 3 times as much as you for the same little plot of land means that we got ripped off. You know, that's our equity. We paid for the infrastructure, we paid for the hospitals, the roads, and all of that, and we employed you fellas too and paid you really well. A lot of you became prosperous. The only people that didn't become prosperous in our history on the Maori side were the rebels that fought. They kept fighting, you know, for decades and decades, and they were interested in scraping away the Pakeha, attacking us. We basically suffered a genocide. We are, us here, the descendants of Ngāti Wikitoria, which I am from 1840. Under the Clan Morrison, we have the Pakeha movement. And my family, the Kennards, who married into the Morrisons, they came to Otago in June 1840. And the first Morrisons here on the family side were January to Wellington 1840, before the treaty was even signed. You know, apparently they had a council and they had a flag and everything, and Hobson shut them down. So we're going to recreate that council, and we're going to get the flag too. That's another episode for another day, though. I must get going now. And so that's the stats for tonight. If you want to fund Matt Matt's trust, contact us, the Pakeha Movement. I'll put the email below, and I can get you in contact with him so you can make a donation to him, or you can send him a message of support or something like that, because this is how we need to work, and we're going to help everybody set up trusts, and we're going to fund them as well. Okay, we're going to fund them. We're starting a legal entity, and then we can make claims, because one of the reasons why we get ignored and that we don't, you know, that we don't have any voice or anything is because we've never had a legal entity. So it's the first time in history. Pakeha are uniting. We are going to have a socio-political voice and platform, which is the White Wave Views broadcast that I've started. Hopefully it'll turn into Pakeha TV. Who knows? We're going to preserve our heritage, and we're going to celebrate our culture, and we're going to celebrate the benefits of colonisation. We're looking at all the best things of everybody else's culture. Nobody gets on the German back about the Nazi regime, do they? So it's about time you just leave this. Colonisation isn't happening anymore. What's happened is we're getting colonised in the system now. So, you know, we've got the same grievances against the Crown that Maori had. Okay, we're not going to take anything off them. We're going to ask the Crown for the same. Okay, so the Maori people don't have to worry. Our fight isn't with you. So, yeah, you could be sure about that. So I'm going to end this live now, and what I want everybody to do is, if you're a Pakeha and you're a patriot and you're sick of what's happening to your country, join the Pakeha movement, join the resistance, okay? Because we're going to pull everybody in, and you're going to know who everybody is, and we're going to promote everybody, and we're going to eventually fund them too, because we're going to be that provider for you. We're serving you. Okay, because we've got to have the bespoke as well. And if the government won't give it to us, we have to go and get it and take our rightful place. If it's going to be a partnership, treaty-centred future, then we're the other partner of the treaty. And, you know, we've got our English treaty that tells us that we have the same rights, and I don't think it's any different in the Te Reo version. Same rights and duties, because Maori have a duty to keep the bond of friendship with us. That's what the treaty chief said. So I'm going to be bringing some more news in another couple of days, and we'll pick another topic. We'll just keep on the same collective vein that we're the ones that are suppressed and marginalised and voiceless. We're the ones that need funding. We're the ones that are the architects and designers and builders of this nation. We have priceless equity. And every time the Crown gives Maori a piece of land, we actually have Pakeha equity bound up in that, okay? And every dollar equity, you know. Every pot of honey sold, equity, because we bought the honeybee. It's like, you can't just say that you got the land, but no, we have the authority. We bought the knowledge and everything, and the free education, and that's why you're prospering now. That's why you're prospering and living long. So we have equity in everything in this country. We do belong. We're not going back anywhere, because God owns the earth, and he placed us here. We did the job, and we were very successful. In fact, I think the whole Maori and Pakeha during the 18th century did the best they could with each other. It was only a small faction of rebels that really upset it, and that's what we've got today as well. Okay, so we're going to deal with that. Stick with us, support us, share our stories, share our videos. I'll put some links in the comments below, and we'd love you to share those as well. So good night from the WWVB, and we'll see you next time.